Presented by Van Horn Law Group and CasaBella Design Group. Seth Levit here in the CasaBella Design Group Studios, joined by the man with the best hands in the live podcast business. He is OJ McDuffie. Juice. It's like a winning locker room today.
Man, it's been a winning locker room all week, Big Seth. You know how I roll, man. You know how I roll, man. Yeah, man. It's been good, man. You know, nice smile on my face. High school team had a rough one, but bye week for my Penn State Nittany Lions, so we won that one, I hope. And you know, and huge day for my Dolphins. Our Dolphins on Sunday. What the fuck was that, Big Seth?
I don't know, but I liked it. Whatever it was, I liked it.
Man, oh man. Shit, keep it coming.
No doubt. So I said a winning locker room. Always joining us here in this winning locker room is the great producer, the legendary Sevach. He is not donning the hoodie because we had an indoor game. The conditions were a little bit easier to manage, but the shades are still there. No Chris Perkins today. I want to say that Perk got called into like an emergency homeowners association meeting or something, but he's not here. Quite honestly, I think that like if Chad's not here and we don't have the Van Horn Law Group legal zone, then Perk seems to have something come up.
Right, right, Big Seth. You know, hell, it's always about the free advice he gets on here, man. He's like, you know, he's doing us a solid, but really he's got his own self-interest involved here. You know what I mean? It's absolutely ridiculous.
There's no question. There's no question about it. Yeah. So, well, we also advertised that the great Travis Wingfield, our buddy Travis Wingfield, is going to be here. The birthday boy. It's Travis's birthday. So when he does get here, for the folks that are with us, we need them to go ahead and wish Travis a happy birthday. But I think he's coming a little bit late, fashionably late to his own party. You know, he needs to make an entrance, and we expect that that'll be the case.
Well,
go wild, then.
What I understand, Seth, is that he's carving pumpkins. You know, he's got the little ones. So
he does have a lot of little ones.
A lot of little ones.
He is prolific.
Yep, 5 and unders, and that's you know how that was, and we were dealing with the 5 and unders. So we'll give them a little break. You know, once they go to bed, then we'll get Wingfield NFL on, right?
Yeah, where's Wingfield? We definitely need him in here for sure. And and then we'll just hold it down for the guys that aren't able to join us. But I want to get into something first before we get into everything.
Okay.
And I'm a little embarrassed, but I got to put it out there, partially because he's standing about 10 feet away from me, and I'm in the CasaBella Design Group Studios. But I had a lot going on today, as you know I typically do. I was running around. I had left my microphone at the office, so I had to go back to get the microphone. Since I was going back out of the house, then everybody all of a sudden said, well, on your way back, can you grab this? And totally needed something. And then, you know, my son hadn't had anything to eat. And so I stopped at Chipotle. I got food for him. I grabbed something for me as well. We had a whole big ordeal because there was something weird in the lettuce. I had to make him redo the bowl. So I scramble over here. I got here about 11 minutes before showtime. And I walk in smelling like Chipotle. I'm digging in. I'm eating while I'm setting everything up. And poor Alvaro Freitas of CasaBella Design Group, the host of the Renovation Revolution, has been sitting here since, I don't know, 7:30 this morning, hasn't eaten anything. And he goes, hey, what did you get me?
Right.
And the answer is not a damn thing. And does that make me a bad friend?
Yeah. Absolutely. At least you could have, gave him the half you hadn't eaten off of. Yeah, give him some of that. At least give him a couple bites or hold him over like an appetizer. How about the spread he gives you all the damn time, Big Seth?
All the time.
He always hooks you up.
There's a refrigerator full of Mountain Dew.
Right.
I have access to the CasaBella Design Group Studios 24 hours a day.
Right.
Thursday mornings we meet, our Renovation Revolution meeting. That's his Top 100 podcast. Congratulations to the Renovation Revolution. We meet every Thursday morning, and he shows up with Dunkin' and like a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich, all this stuff. And I show up here empty-handed. I feel like a real asshole.
Yeah, you should. You honestly should, bro. Maybe you are. Maybe you don't. You're not showing up as a real asshole. Maybe you're showing up as you.
As me? No, it's Halloween. That's why I'm dressing up as a real trick or treat. It's all a big joke. Needless to say, Juice, I got some making up to do here. So sure. I'm hoping that maybe you can do something nice for Alvaro to win back his good graces since he has been so supportive of the fish tank. All right, let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. We got a big dub, and not just any dub, a big dub, a game where everybody just was predicting disaster, right?
Yeah.
Everyone thought that everyone started Bijan, right? You know, everyone's fantasy team.
Right.
He didn't go. Yeah, what do you have? 9 carries. Pete Prisco's. Now they're questioning the decisions that they're making as an offense for the other team. How nice was it to watch people start threatening the job of the coach on the other sideline? I don't want that guy to lose his job. I'm just saying they weren't talking about our guy. How nice was it? So, the number 1 pass defense, they're going to kill. Tua had 6 interceptions the last 2 games, and he just went off.
Yeah.
Are the Dolphins back, fellas? Are the Dolphins back?
You know what? I'm thinking, Big Seth, it's hard to say it in one game. Now, I'm going to tell you this. That's the Dolphin team that I was looking to see this year. You know, a solid defense, a solid front seven, being able to stop the run, you know, guys getting hats on hats and you know, and tackles for losses. You know, linebackers not getting tackles 4 or 5 yards down the field, but, you know, tackles for no gain, tackles for losses, give us a chance to get into our little race car package when it comes to getting after quarterbacks. That's kind of what I expected. And I also expected on the offensive side of the football to be able to go in there and run Achane and then bring in Thunder. You know, we had Lightning with Achane, then Thunder with Ollie Gordon. You know what I mean? And, you know, and Jalen Wright. And that's kind of how it all worked out, man, with these guys running the ball 37 times. So that's what I kind of expected from this team. And it's kind of how we got away from it, that idea. You know, early in the season, obviously the early loss was rough one. And when you're losing that bad, it's hard to get into some of the things you want to do running the football. But the fact that the defense is able to go out there and play so well, that gave the offense a chance to really, you know, really run the clock, you know, take control of the whole game. That was huge right there, man. I was hoping we'd get an opportunity like that to go out there and play like that. 38 minutes to 22 minutes of time possession. That's how you beat a team that's got 2 really good running backs.
Yeah, it was unbelievable to watch it. Like every phase of the game, it was kind of. Were you asking yourselves where the hell were these guys all season?
Oh yeah. You know what I was asking myself, Big Seth, is when are the wheels gonna fall off?
Thought it was too good to be true.
It was, man. I had to get through 3 quarters. I'm like, all right, shit, I feel good. I feel good here. You know what I mean?
Don't celebrate too soon. I could hear JT in my head. Don't celebrate too soon. Yeah, I mean, there were so many different factors of that game that just it was exciting to see. To your point, some of those things we did expect to see, but it was a head scratcher as to like why did it take so long for these things to happen? Yeah. So that's you know, and I'm going off script a little bit here, and we'll get back to it. But one of the big things that people talked about was the value of having offensive coordinator Frank Smith on the sidelines in the bench area, not in the fishbowl, as he calls it. I thought I was going to say fish tank. We were going to have Chad send him a cease and desist, you know, at least get some royalties off of that, but not up in the booth. He was on the sidelines. And, you know, we heard Mike McDaniel talk about everything's on the table after the Cleveland game, whether it's people's starting jobs, whether we have to make changes, like everything's on the table. When you're losing the way we're losing, everything's on the table. And really one of the only changes that were made was Frank Smith got moved downstairs.
Right.
And like, that's cool, but I didn't expect it to be as important as it sounds like it was. And we heard it from Tua. We heard it from other players. Frank Smith yesterday got out there and said, Achane's like, you ain't never going back up in the booth. And how much of that was guys being, I don't know, superstitious? Or do you think that there's a significant help to the players, particularly the offensive players, to have that guy there in the bench area? Because I kind of always thought he was just an offensive coordinator in name only.
Right. Except, you know what, man? I think it's huge. I'm going to tell you why it's huge. You know, we've seen sideline after sideline after sideline. You see Mike McDaniel, you know, on the sideline, buried in his call sheet, in his play sheet, you know what I mean? And not really giving any other, from what we can see, any other constructive criticism to the players, you know, that are coming off the field, offensively especially. We're talking about Frank Smith here. And so I think the fact that Frank Smith was able to, while Mike was doing what he does normally, was able to go back there and give some one-on-one instruction, one-on-one hype, sitting with Tua, I'm sure, which is always important. If things go well, you get a chance to talk it up instead of just being with one person in the headset. You've seen the headset go to different players,
right?
You know, but when you've got him down there actually talking to the guys, he can bounce around from player to player to player in order to get what, get a message across. And I think I love that part about it. He talked about some of the guys that didn't Achane didn't even recognize he was down there the whole game. I think that's a good thing. Achane said he didn't realize he was down there the whole time, but I bet he heard his voice a bunch of times while he was down there. Yeah. And then you get all these opportunities to, to hear what Frank Smith has to say about a certain play, a certain drive, and certain things they want to do together. And I think more importantly, you get an opportunity for him to get down there and talk to that offensive line. Those guys are the ones, honestly, that really showed up for us a lot, bigger than they have in a long time. And I think that's huge, man. So
no matter what, Juice, they put 6 of them out there.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, with Brunskill out there too, man. They did and that's the thing you can do when you've got a lead, when you're trying to control the rock. You can do all kinds of things like that you haven't done before. And so I'm with you, man. I think the Frank Smith experience, it's not going anywhere. It better not go anywhere. My issue, though, what the hell took him so long to get to that point?
So that's what I wanted to ask, and I had a couple questions there. I guess we'll start with that one since you just asked it. That's the first thing. Is this is year 4 of McDaniel and Frank Smith working together, and I don't know if in 2023, at least tonight we won't hear the awful take of benching Tua for you. I hope not, Mark. I hope not, because that's set me off all week. Yeah. We'll get into that. But 2023 they're scoring 70 points. They're not looking for answers as to let's change something. But things did seem to go awry late in 2023. We know last year was problematic. Did they just think it had something to do with the fact that Tua missed so many games? It just seems like a lack of self-scouting or self-awareness. And when I hear what Frank Smith talked about, what he was able to do, and what other players talked about the value of Frank Smith, that sounded to me like what a head coach sometimes does on game day if they're not the play caller. Right. I think when you're the play caller, you're so zoned in on what's the next call, what are the tendencies. Even when the defense is out on the field, you're thinking about what are you going to do next and how are you going to respond to these different situations. Whereas, how many different head coaches have we seen these great NFL films video? Yeah, why did it take McD so long to figure this out? Yeah. How many different head coaches have we seen on the sidelines? You've seen it with Belichick, where he runs over to the offensive line and he kind of gives them a pep talk, or he gives some coaching points. And that's my major concern of head coaches who are also primary play callers is, can you really do both? Right. In game? You can certainly do both during the week. You can do both in meetings. You can do both in practice. But can you do both in game if you are so hyper-focused on one particular thing? You would know better than any of us, Juice, just, kind of living that life on the sidelines. I'm just curious.
Yeah, and you know what else, Big Seth? It's like rarely do you have the play caller and the offense coordinator on the sideline at the same time. Usually if the play caller is the head coach, the offensive coordinator is probably upstairs, like we've been doing. So now we've got the head coach who's the play caller, but you also have the OC down there, which is nice, man, because you can really, communicate a lot more down there than you could before. Then, because when he's upstairs. And so I love the fact that, Mike, honestly, it seems to me, took a little bit of advice and listened to Frank while he was down there, while Frank was back there doing yeoman's work with the guys, conveying the messages that, about what's going on with the offense. So I think it's a formula that can definitely work. I really do, because a lot of time, Weaver's on the sideline all the time as a DC. He's got some eyes in the sky. Right. Frank's going to be hopefully on the sideline moving forward. He's obviously going to have some eyes in the skies. And we got 2 offensive minds with him and Coach McDaniel working together. So now, look, we had a great day. Now, we got to see if that formula still works tomorrow night. And that's what's key. Can that formula still work tomorrow? And it should. There shouldn't be anything that tells us this is not going to work because of the extra coaching that you get by having Coach Frank Smith on the ground. See, here's the thing about it. You know how it is, Big Seth. When the game's going on and your offensive coordinator is upstairs, you get some stuff from the offense coordinator before the game. You get a little bit at halftime. Halftime's 12 minutes. You got 12 minutes of coaching from the offense coordinator once he comes down the stairs or down the elevator, runs into the locker room. We get in there real quick. We got a couple little snippets of information, and then they're gone again. because they got to get back up there before kickoff. Now you've got No C that's with you for 60 minutes. You got 60 minutes of personal attention from your offense coordinator where you don't usually get that. And even when Andy Reid, you look at Andy Reid, he can't do it all. He's not there back there talking to those guys. He's got to worry about defense, special teams, and he's on his play sheet as well, but he does it very well. We've got a guy that actually went out and got, I'm not calling it help. They don't call it help, but he got some help in coaching the guys behind him while he's in the white paint.
Yeah, well, whatever it is, they need to try and find a way to replicate it. But it was interesting, and it was also curious, like, why did it take this long to figure all that out? So they're loving – there you are, the combo drip. We're getting the drip out here.
Oh, yeah. You know what? It's Football Unites, Jason Jenkins, day of service today. The Dolphins and the whole South Florida community all month long has been out there getting it done, man. And Jason Jenkins and Seth, is one of the best bosses we ever had in our lives.
Ever.
You know what I mean? That gave us an opportunity to be on the Dolphin Network and be able to, show and be able to do what we're doing right here, man. So it was an honor to go to Miami Edison High School where Nat Moore has Nat Moore Way, there, and we distribute food today, man, because the Dolphins, no matter what product they put on the field, they put a great product out in the community.
Yeah, no question about it. Yeah. And that's something that Jason did an incredible job. I mean, look, when you and I were there, Fudge Brown did wonderful things for community service and the players.
He still does. Yep.
But Jason Jenkins took things to another level, and he just his big picture and strategic view on how an organization like the Dolphins can be stewards of the community was very special. What did I just maybe Frank?
Oh yeah. The slide they got at practice facility. Maybe that's what. Maybe that's what Frank sees, and I get it. Hell yeah.
Even in there, he's 30,000 feet up right now. Sam Marcoux is flying on an airplane.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's our guy right there.
I don't know where he's headed. I don't know if he's going back to Perfectville or he just left, but he's still got it for sure. So, what about this? Since we're talking about the actual game, how did we feel about the three-headed monster at running back? Like, you talked about it a little bit, but the healthy dose of not just HN, not just Ollie Gordon, who we've been begging to see more of, but then Jalen Wright finally gets off the inactive list and he's out there and he made some hay as well. I wonder if they'll continue to do that.
Yeah, Big Seth, you said it too, though, man. The fact they were able to go to heavy package, when it comes to Brunskill coming down and being that extra lineman in there, man, that was huge that they were able to go in there and use our thunder and lightning like I talked about, man. Those guys have become all downhill guys, man. Tough yards, tough runs, and I think that helped us out a lot when it came to, being able to go there and try to run this clock out. 38 minutes I already talked about. But we also had a couple offensive linemen, Big Seth, tight ends that they don't care about catching the football. They just want to go hit somebody in the mouth, man. And that's always good too. And they went heavy with the run game because they had some guys. And of course, we're without Waller, and we're without Hill. But some of the other guys they brought up, man, those guys came out there and they wanted to hit people in the mouth. I think Rucci had a good game. Dolce's had a solid game. Tanner Connor even had a decent game, in my opinion, but I'm just saying, though, man, the fact that we were to commit to the run, that was huge for this team because that's never been our MO. It has never been our MO. And you know what? When you bring that big guy out there, when you bring Daniel, Brunskill out there, we're going to run, and they still couldn't stop it. That's what I like seeing about our football team the other day.
Yeah, it was exciting. And, we're only talking about the offense here. Obviously, got to look at the other side of the ball.
Oh, sure.
First of all, before I get into that, did you see there was a whole thing going on? I guess Alan Poupard, we like Alan. We don't always agree with Alan, but we like Alan. He was nice enough to be here in the live. Alan was unwilling initially to kind of give the credit to the offense that some folks wanted him to give. And he basically said the defense won this game. And even the offense's ability to do what they did was because the defense limited Atlanta's offense and running game so much. I think he ultimately kind of backed off of that and said that it was a total team win. But the defense did, to their credit, after just being, it was one of the worst defenses, maybe the worst defense in football, certainly one of the worst defenses we've ever seen here from the Miami Dolphins. When people start mentioning Tom Olivadotti, when they're talking about your defense, that's cause for concern, right? When they start
Right.
mentioning Tom Alvadati, and there were a lot of great plays and great performances on defense, but man, oh man, did Jordan Brooks bring it from the first whistle to the last. And obviously we weren't the only ones who thought that, as he was named today AFC Defensive Player of the Week. What do you have? 10 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a sack.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just out there. That's what you want. There it is, Sevach. That's what you want from your team captain. That's a guy who I feel like has been trying to set the tone going back to, was it last year where he talked about the team played soft?
Right.
I mean, he has not been afraid to speak his mind. He's not been afraid to bring a certain, truly a certain culture to that room. We saw him a little friendly fire, get into a little bit with Dotson in training camp. And man, he just continues to bring it regardless of circumstance, regardless of record. Yeah. So that was exciting to see. What do you think of Jordan Brooks' performance?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Jordan Brooks. Give me real quick back to what Alvin Parr said when it came to the Dolphins and only the defense did whatever. We had 3 touchdown drives, one of 79 yards, one of 82 yards, one of 84 yards. I didn't see anybody on the defense side of football out there running the ball, catching the ball, throwing the football. So you can say whatever you want about what the defense did. Yeah, they forced those guys into punts on all those, or maybe something on downs, or a fumble, whatever it might have been. But to put 3 long-ass drives like that together, that is special. And back to Jordan Brooks. Now, we talked about Jordan Brooks, leading the league in tackles and blah, blah, blah. They were all way down the field, 5 yards down the field. Now we're looking at Jordan Brooks that has, a sack, a quarterback hit, 3 tackles for loss in that game. He set the tone early in that game.
Yeah.
You could hear the first pops when our defense is out there through the TV. There were incredible hits, like right away. Like this is going to be a long day. You know what I mean? For you, Bijan. It's going to be a long day for you, Algier. And it was for those guys. For those guys that have 45 yards rushing, Big Seth. For Bijan, who's everybody's probably pissed off about only having 4 fantasy points. You know what I mean? Algier with 9 fantasy points only because he got that touchdown at the end, a little cheapo at the end.
Juice, you know those numbers. You don't have them on your squad, do you?
Nah, hell no. I bench them anyways. That's why I don't win in fantasy football. I bench people that play against the Dolphins. I had Tom Brady a few times. Now I benched his ass, and of course I lost, but it's all good. I digress, man. Stop trying to change the subject on me, Big Seth. Those guys went out there honestly, man, and they set the tone, set the tempo, and they were lighting guys up, and they'd better be ready to bring the hat again this week.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to, and it's a different type of running game. I love what you said talking about those long drives, because Anthony Weaver said it yesterday too. They asked him, and he talked about how great T-Dog in the house. Hold on. I was just about to make a point.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. T-Dog has stopped recording. So T-Dog's in for a minute. He's coming in and messing up the whole show. So that was it. That was his appearance. Hey, guys, I'm glad you guys were all here for Travis Wingfield.
How can he stop it? How can he stop it? What the hell?
See you all next week.
That's right. He's like an NBA player. So, these NBA is so different than the NFL. NBA guys, they sit there like the D Wades and those guys. They plan a tour of these nightclubs, and wherever their schedule is in those road games, they do these pass-throughs, and they get paid, and they literally like walk through the club, take a few pictures, sip a drink, and they're gone in 20 minutes. And that's what Travis Wingfield, a.k.a. T-Dog, did here. I thought that was it. He was in and he was out. Well, guys, give it up for Travis Wingfield, the birthday boy, Travis Wingfield. Shout out to Travis. I was thinking about this today on my way in, where I didn't have enough bowls from Chipotle because I just screwed over my man Alvaro. But I was thinking about this. Me, you, and Travis. Asshole. Can't start the asshole chant. So me, you, and Travis, the 3 of us have not worked together since last football season.
Correct.
Maybe that's the fucking problem.
Right.
I'm just saying. Maybe that is the problem. Travis Wingfield, welcome to Fish Tank Live, man.
Well, I was just thinking about how I know I haven't seen you because I haven't delivered the Mountain Dews.
How many do you owe me now?
I mean, it's got to be several cases at this point. 4 or 5 cases of Mountain Dew. I better supply the Seth Levit like Christmas run of Mountain Dews at this point.
Yeah. You know what? How about Hanukkah? Give me one for every one of those 8 crazy nights. I think that's what it is.
A case per night.
Right.
I'll take a case.
Does anybody else in the family drink Mountain Dews?
No, God, no.
Just
I wouldn't let anybody that I care about drink that stuff.
I'm gonna be grinching them out of the facility because they always have a 12-pack of Mountain Dew in the media fridge. Doesn't get drank very often, but I'm gonna go like one by one, like as the weeks accumulate here, and get you some Mountain Dews.
Well, that's what I said. So for people want to know what's going on, because we have so many damn inside things going on here. Travis and I had a bet in training camp. It was a bet regarding Minkah Fitzpatrick and when he was going to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel a certain way about Minkah, the player. And then I feel a certain way about how Minkah has handled certain things. I did not anticipate him speaking anytime soon. Travis thought that the reaction by the media that, why are they making something out of this, that Minkah doesn't want to be here, he's going to talk tomorrow, he was onboarding. I'm like, onboarding? Freaking onboarding? What do you think this is, corporate America? Like, he's got to go. He doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to talk either because of his contract. He doesn't want to talk because he doesn't want to be here right now. He doesn't want to talk because he doesn't want to answer Brian Flores questions. Whatever it is, he ain't ready. It ain't happening tomorrow. Probably ain't going to happen by Friday. And I said, I'll bet you Mountain Dew. And I am leveraged so poorly in this bet because A, you have free Mountain Dew in the refrigerator around the hall from you. B, you work in the damn communications department.
Right.
And C, you're in the building. Meanwhile, he owes me cases of Mountain Dew. So we know how that went. All right.
You tried to tell me.
I did try to tell y'all. So we have a lot to ask Travis to get caught up on here. But since Sam Marcoux is flying somewhere in America, I don't know where. I think in America. I don't even know that. He wants to know where O.J. McDuffie ranks himself on the Miami Dolphins all-time wide receiver list.
I rank myself probably, I'm top 10.
Top 10. All right. We'll
Easy.
take it. We'll take it. Although Andrew Krall says number 1. So we like that.
That's my dude, though, man. He's a little biased.
Bias is okay.
That's what he knows me personally. That makes sense.
That's why you have your own damn show, is to be biased. Absolutely.
That's my dude right there.
All right. So Bill says, congrats to Travis on the great Mariners season. So close.
Yeah.
So there he is. He's representing his
M's. Hell
Good
yeah.
stuff.
Got
Travis,
to.
We were just talking about Jordan Brooks, if you want to pick up where we left off there. And obviously he was just named Tanner Connor's a made-up name. He was Jordan Brooks was just named AFC Defensive Player of the Week. You've been singing Jordan Brooks' praises since the Dolphins signed him as a free agent signing. You were so excited that the linebacker play was going to be upgraded in the way that you've been waiting for a couple of years. What did you think about the way that what is going on? We got dogs, we got Chipotle, not enough apparently. We got Mountain Dew and Travis Wingfield. What do you think of Jordan Brooks yesterday or Sunday?
Yeah, it was interesting how he kind of had that breakout game that that position is so dependent on what happens in front of you. And we've obviously had a rough time against the run so far this season. And I think that he and Zach have kind of been the two guys that have taken the brunt of that, with Zach getting perpetually double teamed and Jordan just not having free lanes to run through. And he kind of took it upon himself, on top of really good defensive tackle play in that game, but he kind of took it upon himself to be like, the scene in oh yeah, we can cuss on this show now. The scene in Major League when he says, I say, fuck you, Joe Boo. I do it myself. Right. He kind of pulled a fuck you, Joe Boo, and just said, I'm going to shoot gaps and I'm going to get there before anybody can even get a hand on me. And he was beating guards and centers to their spot before they could get there off the line of scrimmage. So that anticipation that he plays with, it kind of feels like both years now it's taken him 6 or 7 games to really get to maximum Jordan Brooks level. He was playing well in the other games as well, but for him to kind of like see it like that, that's when he's at his best, when he can just, it's kind of like what made Zach great, right? He knew what was coming before it happened. And when you do that as a linebacker, you can shoot gaps and you can tell Channing Crowder, hey, go run the B gap right now. Go.
Right.
So like, it's just the ultimate, like it helps the entire team out because he's so damn instinctive and so good in the classroom.
Yeah, Travis, that's so funny you say that, because I remember I heard Junior say I was the same way. You know what I mean? Buddy, I'm going.
I'm going.
I'm going, buddy. You know what I mean? Then everybody else has to adjust. So it's amazing that everybody was able to adjust because, if you're shooting gaps, you might be leaving something open, and the team was able to cover for that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was part of what made Zach's game nice, and Jordan Phillips, which is another guy that I've been singing his praises all year long. And Kenneth Grant continues to get better every single game. So those guys just doing more to not let the offensive line take it to them, right? Like they're planting their flag. They were doing a better job of just holding the line of scrimmage. And when you can do that, you don't get the displacement. It makes it so much easier on the linebackers. And that was the case on Sunday, I thought.
So wait a minute, those were shooting the gaps and not playing run blitzes, right? Those were you saw like that was just him seeing it and going.
Yeah, they dialed back the run blitzing, which I mean, this team is number 4 right now in blitz rate, and they don't want to be that. They want to be bottom 8 of NFL blitzing rate, and they've had to do that because they just haven't been able to get pressure at the quarterback or against the run.
Got it.
That's a bad combination.
Yeah.
That's a really bad combination. So, well, speaking of pressure, quarterback pressure, so this is actually I had as number 1. But why is everyone looking for Biggers? We'll just answer that question since the chat is active. They want to know where Biggers is. Don't ask Omar Kelly because he might get the wrong possession. And we love Omar. I'm just saying, might get the wrong position there. Travis, why haven't we seen Biggers yet?
Yeah, he's the third string. Well, actually, no, he's. What would you put him behind? He plays the same position as Zach and KG. He's a 3 tech, not a nose tackle. He's a 3 technique. So he's behind those two guys, and then Matthew Butler as well. So I think he's just it's just how the depth chart rolls, man. Like this staff is so, for better or worse, so set on how they stack the guys, right? It's so rare you see someone make a jump akin to the number 2 quarterback job a couple weeks ago, but that's so rare to see that where someone makes a jump on the depth chart because they kind of set it, and then if you're up and you're healthy, it kind of goes that way. So Zeke is just behind a few guys right now.
Yeah, and also Travis, most guys don't play other positions, it seems like, right? So like we had, I think that situation was a couple weeks ago where T-Dot was out. They thought maybe Gay should have played that spot, but Britt played it. And they're like, well, T-Dot, Gay doesn't play the outside line, but he plays behind, Brooks. So a lot of times these guys, they play a position they've been learning and playing on the whole time. And and people think you can just move all over the place and play. You can't. You can't play. A lot of guys can't play X and play Z and play slot. They can only, it's hard as hell to do all that because there's so much going on.
I was going to say you would know better than anybody because I'm sure as a rookie, like it was like, hey, Juice, learn the slot and learn punt return, right? Like don't concern yourself with other things because, I mean, for those guys, like, and this Juice, like when you come out of college, you're training for the combine and then you're in the draft process, you get drafted, then you're in rookie minicamp. Like you're basically 2 seasons back to back. So you're basically don't get an off season when you're a rookie. And for those guys, there's just so much they have to absorb. And I'm happy that this coaching staff does a good job of developing players to get the most out of them. We see them, these players typically take a year or 2 before they hit their ceiling, and it's because they're so invested in their process. We saw it with Patrick Paul, for instance. I think you'll see it with Jonah Savaiinaea. Like it's this idea of let's do it the right way rather than take shortcuts and try to short circuit their development for the betterment of like immediate impact. And I think you're seeing that with a lot of these guys, especially on the defensive line. They talked about it all camp long, how like let's start with one position, then we'll expand from there.
Yeah. So speaking of the defensive line, and we were talking earlier about pressure, this is the time of the year because that deadline is approaching, is the trade deadline. So you get the trade rumors, and there have been, I think early on people were losing their mind, especially when everybody wanted to fire everybody and trade everybody and tear the whole thing down, burn it all down. Not to say they won't feel that way in 3 days or whatever.
The sentiment ain't gone yet.
No, but I think we got to a place where the majority of Dolphins fans kind of agreed there's certain non-negotiables, to use a Mike McDaniel term. And Jalen Waddle, like non-negotiable. Devon Achane, non-negotiable. Maybe there's a couple others that people argue about. But the name Bradley Chubb and the name Jaelen Phillips continue to be thrown into all of these different trade rumors. KFC, the great Kyle fucking Krabs, he wrote an article today about 2:15 might be, the clock might have struck midnight on 2:15. I thought that was creative. It's nice when a guy gets to be able to be creative in his writing. So he wrote, welcome back, Travis. So he wrote that, and we keep hearing these guys mentioned. Is that as much about performance? Is that as much about value? Is that as much about pending contract issues that their names are names that continue to be thrown in our faces?
I think internally the thought is they don't want to get rid of any of the guys because they believe in the 3-man rotation they have with Phillips, Chubb, and Chop. And I think the argument you could make for, Chubb makes the most sense to me just because of his age and contract situation and like the future of where he, fits in for the Dolphins, because Chop obviously, has 2 more years of the rookie contract and the 5th-year option. He's like the future of the position, hopefully. And then with Jaelen Phillips, it's such a tricky, like, he's such a tricky player because he's awesome and he's getting there. He's getting back to where he was pre-injury, in my opinion. And it's been slowly building. He's getting those reps where he's rushing over the guards and centers and walking up in the A gaps. And he loves that. They love using him that way. So I think it's coming for him. And the tricky part is 2 back-to-back years with season-ending injuries. If it happens again, like, how do you handle that from a contract standpoint? So I think with Phillips, to me, and we'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen, but to me, Phillips has more value to the Dolphins right now than anybody else because they're going to get the last, 9-10 games of him here. And I think it's going to continue to build. Whereas his value at the end of the season will be much greater than what it is right now because of that trajectory. And with his contract, how the hell do you do that? Because I believe he's in the 5th year right now, right? 21, 22, 23, 25. Yeah, he's on the 5th year option right now. Live math from the show. That's why I got to have Juicer from. He knows that I carry the one. Right. But he's in the 5th year option right now, which means next year, I mean, just knowing how NFL free agency works, he's probably going to get a bag. I can't imagine he won't, because if he's productive and healthy all year long, he plays a premium position where guys get paid, and he's got all the tools to do everything at that spot inside and out and be a dominant, player at that spot. So I think that it's tough with him because I think his value is as low as it's going to be for the Dolphins right now, where Bradley Chubb, I don't think, if you're forecasting 2-3 years down the road, we've heard Chris Greer talk about, we think about the draft in 2-year cycles. I think you have to think that way with how you build your roster. And 2 years from now, what is Bradley Chubb's role on the team? That's why I would think that he would be the highest option among the guys that are, in that group to possibly be moved to get moved. But I think my inkling is that internally they don't want to move anybody.
Right. And I think that, you never really want to move anybody, right? That's you don't put guys in your roster with the idea of possibly moving them. And I think, I think last game showed a sign where we get a chance with these guys and get into what I would call a NASCAR situation. Mm-hmm. They were very disruptive, man. All 3 of those guys on the field at the same time was very productive. That's because they kept, we were great on our down and distances, Travis, and staying, ahead of the chains. And we kept pushing them back to a situation where we could, bring some people and make those guys run hot and things like that. So I thought it was the fact that both sides played that way was impressive. But I think trading anybody right now, you lose that game in Atlanta, there's probably 5-10 guys you're talking about. All right, you know what? Let's go ahead and get rid of this guy, that guy, whatever. But now you're talking about a situation where if they go into tomorrow night and they have another game where they're like that, then you got to revisit all that. Right. Getting the 3-6 is a big deal. I know it's not a great record, but I'm gonna tell you this: Big Mo it could be possible, man. But it's only one game at a time. See how they play tomorrow night, and then we got a little bit of time before we have to make that decision. I think it's big.
Yeah, I also think it's interesting. And so much has changed. If we went back a week ago, where the sky was falling, and has so much changed, I don't know. Like you said, Juice, we'll find out on Thursday. But in terms of the sentiment and people, a lot of people want to put a freeze on any transactions. Wait a minute, we're evaluating, as much as we're evaluating the roster, are we evaluating the head coach? Are we evaluating the general manager? Are we going to turn over, how much are we going to let somebody get rid of pieces when they may not be here to manage those pieces? So it's really interesting to kind of see how all that is taking place. But in addition to those 2 names being mentioned, there was an ESPN story. It was at Seth Walder. He wrote a recommended trade that every team in the National Football League should make. And he recommended that the Raiders trade for Tua Tagovailoa, and that the Dolphins should not only give up Tua, but they should give up a 2nd-round pick next year and a 2nd-round pick in 2027 to give them Tua in exchange for a 5th-round draft pick in 2027. Not only do I think that will never happen in a gazillion years, and they brought up Brock Osweiler, how ridiculous is that? How ridiculous is that suggestion, T-Dog?
I was going to tell you, S-Dog, that is the Brock Osweiler move. That happened a few years back when he got moved for a 2nd-round pick to basically say, take this guy and his contract off of our hands. And it's the same thing I just said about about Jaelen Phillips. If you're going to trade Tua right now, he's at his lowest possible value that he's ever been to the Miami Dolphins. 23 was an elite season, 22 was an elite season, 24 a little bit of a regression, and then the start of this year a big time regression. And then Sunday, I thought you saw Tua of old, and he's getting the Dan Orlovsky's back on his side, saying like there's an elite quarterback still in here. And so again, like if you're gonna move him and you're gonna force, you're gonna have to give up draft pick, which this team needs to continue to draft like they did the last 2 years. They have to do it for 3 or 4 more years to get back into this thing from a roster building standpoint. If you're going to give away those draft picks just to get Tua off the team, I don't understand that, because you're going to get worse at quarterback. Seth's point last week, tried to tell you guys that Tua was the best quarterback on the roster by a long shot. He still is, and probably going to be next year too, unless you wind up with a top pick and a rookie that balls out in camp. I don't know that you're going to be able to replace Tua in terms of being the best quarterback on the roster next year. So if you do that, you're basically not only punting on right now, but it kind of feels like for a while. And I just don't. If you're going to get a picks for him, great. I maybe can think about that, but to give away picks, I just don't see how that benefits the Dolphins in any way, because we've seen what this thing looks like without Tua at quarterback, and he hasn't played well this year. I will be the first one to say that, but I think it's worth seeing and we'll get to this in I tried to tell you, I think it's worth seeing if this new approach of offense they kind of have pivoted to can continue to get the most out of Tua the way it did on Sunday. And I think there's a possibility it can.
Yeah, Travis, my friend Lisa Rose has a question for you.
Go for it.
Yeah, I absolutely think that, because when you watch Tua, and I'm curious, I'd love to hear a defender speak on this, because I could be talking out of my ass here, which is sometimes what I get paid to do. But I'd be curious if
I don't know if that's what they're paying me for.
Well, especially like in a dome, right? A clear visor with the lights around the building. Like I have to imagine there's a reflection off of that. Will probably be the case again tomorrow night with a night game. But I think like when you watch Tua drop back, when they show close-ups of his face mask, like he is intentional about which way his head points, and then his eyes are often in the corner, so he can like try to confuse you with the helmet stripe or that too. Yeah.
Right,
or he can have one eye doing it. Because I think, Juice, right? Defenders are looking at the stripe on the helmet. That's kind of how you determine where his eyes are. But you can use that to your advantage to manipulate if you're the quarterback. So in Tua's, that's as much as you want to talk about his play this year, that's one of the best traits he has. He's one of the best in the league at that when he's going at his highest. And I think if you can do anything to increase that, let's do that, because that's a good idea.
Travis, I think the front seven guys can actually see eyes. Some guys might not be able to see eyes. I think if you're close enough in the front seven, you can actually see eyes. Imagine how it used to be when they used to have the tinted visors, because before concussions and everything, you were allowed to use the tinted visors because, they want to see your eyes right away without taking your helmet off. But I mean, Tua's game really, honestly, is the no look. You know what I mean? And if, you can turn your head this way, but you still got to cut your eyes one way. Now, if he can like literally shield that now, that might help us a lot in terms of what Tua does best, which is like really the deception. So I like the idea that no matter what, like, and Seth, this too, the reason Mark Clayton wore shades because he got poked in the eye one time, right?
Absolutely.
He got poked in the eye.
Wilbur Marshall.
Yeah, Wilbur Marshall poked him in the eye, but he wore them anyways after that. After his eye was healthy, before they had shields.
That's because he's cool as ice, though.
Yeah, he looked great. And then, he wore the long wristbands because he had turf burn one time, and that was never going to happen again. So I think for Tua, it's a great idea for him to continue wearing that shield if that's what's going to keep these guys off balance in terms of being able to read his eyes, because Tua's nice with that no look.
Well, he said the guys like it, so he's going to keep it. If they're looking at the stripe on your helmet, why wouldn't you?
No, man.
Why wouldn't you just take the stripe off the helmets? Why wouldn't you? If that was, I don't know. That's a whole other thing.
You can still read Riddell. You can still read Riddell up there.
So since we're going in the chat, I'll ask a few questions here from the chat. Okay, Dive Bar wants to know, never forget Travis Palooza Dive Bar 2024. I got to hear more. Is that just an invitation?
I think it was just the pod that I did. I'm guessing. I'm not sure.
Oh,
I did like a run of podcasts last summer, and then I think the Dive Bar was the last one I did. I'm not sure that. Yeah, I might have to ask them. I'm not really sure what that is.
There it is. Well, they'll get it. They're still hanging out with us. And then somebody asked, why do we think Chop has regressed?
I think the lack of pass rush situations, to Juice's point earlier. I mean, you got to earn the right to rush the passer, and he's been kind of relegated to not a lot of first down run. And I think that's part of the concern coming out of Penn State was not a lot of reps where he was taking on blocks and setting the hard edge, and he's done a better job at that as time has gone on. But he's not a first down player because they love Chubb and Phillips, and Chubb and Phillips were awesome against the Falcons tight ends. That was a a nice sight to see, because I thought they kind of struggled in those spots previous games. And then this one, they were really good, and the Falcons couldn't get their outside run game going because of that. And so that's kind of their primary job in first downs, and Chop has to come on and earn those spots. And I think you've seen the flash come on, and it was the same way last year, right? It just felt like the entire defense is playing kind of on their back foot, or had been prior to the Atlanta game, and not really playing with confidence, which is, it's as much as we talked about continuity from a scheme standpoint, a lot of the defense is so new, and these guys, I think, are playing that way, or were playing that way in the first part of the season. So for him, I think it's the jury's still out for this season. I would agree that the production's not been what you would hoped it would be, especially with what I saw in training camp. I mean, the guy had a sack every day, and you talk to people that were like, Chop he's the real deal in terms of how he approaches things. So that really got me fired up. But the production's not been there. But I think as we go on here, football seasons are long, man. You can forget about 5 or 6 games with a good, 5 or 6 game stretch of its own. So I think Chop will get going. I think the run defense getting better will give him more opportunities, and eventually his pass rush can get cooking again.
Just Travis, a quick update from Sam Marcoux getting kicked in the back right now. He thought it was a child, as a grown-ass man.
Bro. Oh, man, that's a great topic, man, because how long do you go before you turn around and say some shit, man?
Well, I think it might be about time. Yeah, like once is an accident, right? They might cross their legs, or they might, if it happens once.
Do you talk to the kid, or you talk to the parent?
Well, but he says it's a grown man. There is no kid.
Right. Well, that dude,
parent of the parent.
Yeah, I got you.
But if it was a kid, though, I think you talk to the parent, right?
Yeah,
right,
yeah. You can't turn around.
I wouldn't recommend that.
I'll tell you, got to talk to my kids are grown now, but if somebody tried to say some shit to my kid for kicking the shit, like, talk to me, and I'll have a conversation with my kid.
You ain't even got to talk to him. All you got to do is get up and look back there, like,
absolutely,
through the seat, right? Through the little hole in the seat. Yeah. Quick story for you guys. We were flying a red eye one time. My wife and I's first trip to Hawaii together, flying a red eye back to San Francisco.
Damn, how many trips have you made to Hawaii?
2. Okay. Glorious times. Our wedding one time, the first time before that. There was a guy behind us, and they broke out like the Tupperware, and it was like curry, man. It was not. I'm like, first of all, what the fuck are we doing with this food? And then homie kept on standing up, red eye, right, trying to sleep, kept on standing up and using my headrest as his like leverage to stand himself up. Yeah. And I was like, this motherfucker is about to wear that curry, because I can't do this anymore.
Hey, Travis, did you size him up first, though, before you thought that? Did you?
I'm not a very imposing guy, Juice, but I think I had this one.
You had this one?
I liked my chances.
All right. Hey, Travis, real quick, Big Seth, I love the fact that Patrick Paul was mic'd up this last game. We don't hear a lot from him.
Indubitably.
Bro. You know what I mean? Yeah, he was like, from the beginning, he was kind of quiet. Like, when Jordan Brooks was going through the, getting him hyped, and, he was like one word. Like, he was like,
right.
I was just loving that. And then as it went on, you could hear more of his personality and stuff like that. Talk about Patrick Paul and how he's been so far this year. And then I have to ask you about how Jonah Savaiinaea's game was this past week. So it seemed like he's getting better at left guard.
Yeah, I'll start with Pat, which we talked about this on the mic'd up, right? Like on our private chat, I sincerely love the way he is, like, nothing bothers him. He just has this like cool as a cucumber mentality, but then he gets out there and he is an absolute maniac in how he shit talks and how he'll just beat you at the point of attack and then laugh in your face. And that's like the extent of his trash talk. But as far as his play goes, man, he's smooth. Like, all he had to do was kind of find a way to refine his technique. And I thought he was going to be a pretty good player because of the stature and just the athleticism and everything that he has from a makeup standpoint. But not only did he refine his technique, I'll never forget when the legendary KFC was at his first day of training camp, and he goes, "Is that Patrick Paul?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's Big Pat." And he goes, what did he do this offseason? Like, he completely remade his body. Like, if you go back to his rookie year press conferences, he was a little bit of, pudginess around the gut. He's not anymore. He is completely carved out of clay now. And the way he comes off the ball and imposes his will in the running game. You talk about Jonah, Juice. Like, I thought the best thing that happened in that game from that side of the offensive line was the way Pat and Brew are able to help Jonah. And I think that we've seen that not really be the case this year, which I think was the plan when you had, $8 million right guard was supposed to be in the lineup and 3 plays in was gone. I think with Brew and Paul, their ability to help Jonah with, we talked about this, Juice, right? Was it the pregame show last week, or whatever it was, the way he can just kind of lean into those blocks, and that helps secure those combination blocks for Jonah so much better. Pat and Brewer are doing a great job of that. And for Jonah, this is going to go back to I tried to tell you at the end of the show, they pivoted a lot in the run scheme on Sunday. And for him, it was less jump sets where you fire off your position and you go get the rusher to kind of like cut their runway down. It was, the tape is bad when he does that. And that's kind of how the system is built. So it's like, it's a learning process for him, but he often just like gets out there, the feet go dead, and then the guy tries to redirect and he can't get his weight back under him to redirect with him. And in the running game, it's been similar as well in terms of like just firing off the ball and missing those down blocks or those combination blocks. So I think when you give him more defined roles, defined blocking assignments, he's a lot more sharp that way. And that was what I saw on Sunday. So I think they're going to be the left side of the line for a long time, which I know Dolphins fans would love to hear that. Pat's already there, in my opinion. He's already a stable, quality left tackle, and I think Jonah's going to get there.
Nice.
Yeah,
It's going to take a little time, man. The hell, I had 15 catches my rookie year as a wide receiver, man. So give Jonah a little bit of time, man. I guarantee that, with time and learning the game and knowing how these grown ass men work, I think Jonah's going to be all right. With that left side is going to be pretty powerful.
And especially with, we heard about how much they spent time together this offseason, right? That was one of the best parts about training camp, was hearing that they were in the building every day. Jonah didn't have the offseason like Pat did to remake his body. I think next year you're going to see Jonah come back, and I would be very surprised if you don't see him just cut it up a little bit.
Were you surprised that Jonah was in the middle of the in the locker room at the end? That was Jonah, right?
Yeah, I was.
Were you surprised that he was a guy that really kind of got everybody going at the end of that win?
Yeah, because it's the same thing that we said about Jordan Brooks when we first had lunch with him. And he said, I only heard 5 words out of the guy's mouth. Like, my Mike linebacker's not talking. Jonah doesn't talk. He never talks to anybody, at least that I'm around him. So that was pretty cool to see, man. Kind of coming out of the show a little bit.
Love it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and also, we talked about Frank Smith earlier. Apparently it was Frank Smith who was the person that told him to do it in practice. And then again, he sees it in post game. Who knew that Frank Smith might end up being the MVP of this friggin' team if there's any kind of a turnaround? Pretty crazy stuff. Real quick here, just getting back to the chat. No, Sam, we do not like that decision. If it's a kid, you do not do that. You talk to their parents. Dive Bar is they're putting in the request. Am I your PR guy here, Travis? We've got Travis coming off the top rope after the Curry incident, and Joe Robbie was rooting for the Mariners just because of you.
We all were for Travis. Travis.
You built a little fan base here. I like it.
Yep.
If I could just encourage anybody to check out one episode of the Drive Time podcast. It was after the Mariners lost, and I feel like I don't want to like do it on the show here, but I really kind of put my feelings out there about sports fandom, because as a 38-year-old,
feelings from time to time, T-Bone.
Yeah, all the time. As a 38-year-old Dolphins and Mariners fan, I just haven't really seen a lot of playoff success, and get that, the whole point was how worth it was. So it's going to happen one day, Dolphins fans. It's going to happen, and it's going to be so glorious, because you're going to have earned it more than the kid that grew up in 2001 who was a Patriots fan and saw 6 Super Bowls. Like, it's going to mean way more to you when you get there.
Damn kids. They're still out there.
That oddly enough does make me feel better. Thank you, Travis.
It broke my heart though, man. They were so fucking close. Just put in Andres Munoz, put in your closer when you got the highest leverage situation in the game.
All right. And with that baseball talk, we're going to shift to another segment here. And Travis, you've been waiting for this, and you've teased it a couple times. Should we let him kick it off? I know I said.
Yeah, let's let him kick it off. Let's let Travis kick it off.
Because he's the birthday boy, we're going to allow Travis Wingfield, a.k.a. T-Dog.
T-Dog in the building.
The tape dogger. Is that a Kona?
Kona sighting.
Kona sighting here. It's our favorite segment. It's the I tried to tell y'all segment. Travis Wingfield, what did you try to tell us?
All right. So listen off the top here. I want to be very particular.
No disclaimers. Just get into it.
This is part of my thing, so just stay with me, please. I want to be very particular off the top, because I don't feel that I'm in a position I tried to tell anybody, given how different this year has gone compared to what I thought would happen this season for the Miami Dolphins. I thought this team was going to sneak up on everybody, and there was going to be a really good chance the current record they were going to have at 2-6 would be flipped at 6-2, alas. Now, to tie that into the reason I thought they could surprise, the thing I tried to tell you back in August was that the Dolphins would be able to change their offensive identity through a power run game that sets up the pass. And although it was just one game, we saw that shift on Sunday in Atlanta. Everyone's talking about the extra offensive lineman and the great work Daniel Brunskill did, starting a game at his 6th different position in his career. And that was excellent. They ran that package 14 times and they got 5 plays that were 15 yards or more. That's a great success. Great success. Didn't mean to go full bore out there. But you know what was even better than that? And I'd argue more replicatable going forward? The fact that they ran gap or man scheme 21 times in the game. That was far and away the most in the Mike McDaniel era. And it isn't about the individual production between man and zone. It's a variety that creates a complementary nature between the two running systems. 21 gap schemes, gap scheme runs, 16 out of zone. The second most gap scheme runs they had in the Mike McDaniel era was the week 5 game last year versus the Patriots. They had 17 gap scheme runs and they ran for $193 in that game and pulled it out with Tyler Huntley, a quarterback. And go watch the tape. Look at how much easier it made life on Tua. The diehard Locked On Dolphins fans remember the days of the podcast and stories tracking the 2020 quarterback class as the Dolphins were in position to have a high pick and take one of those guys, right? And I used to joke that a typical Tua game back at Alabama was him having more touchdown passes than incomplete throws. We almost got that on Sunday with 4 touchdowns and just 6 incomplete passes. So when this team can mix their inside zone, their inside run, the power game, and the man blocking schemes with their outside zone. Like, I'm not saying to stop doing outside zone. In fact, I think the reason that the inside running game and the man gap scheme stuff is there is because of what you put on tape for 4 years in the outside zone game. But to keep it fresh with that balance and that mix, they got into it in the Buffalo game as well a little bit and went away from it. They're a load to stop when they can do both those two things, even without Tyreek Hill and without Darren Waller and without, a couple of guys on the offensive line. I tried to tell you back in August, the reason I was so excited about this team was their ability to pivot their offensive running system and that the gap scheme was a dangerous option for this offense. And we saw it in Atlanta on Sunday. So 21 gap scheme runs versus the Falcons. And I went through and looked at the top 10 games in which the Dolphins used gap scheme. They have 10 games here, 11 or more plays of gap scheme. I'll just go ahead and give you the averages on this. So in those 10 games, their 10 highest usage of gap scheme runs, they average 180 yards on the ground, 235 yards through the air, 416 yards total, and they average 32.4 points per game. When you can mix the gap scheme running with the outside zone game, this offense can get cooking. I tried to tell you what happened, and it did finally on Sunday in Atlanta.
The hell we've been waiting on then.
Yeah. Travis.
Somebody came prepared. Travis has been waiting to try and tell us this.
Yeah, he told us too, didn't he, damn it?
Now I know why it took us this late into the season to get Travis from the live, is that he needed that to happen. There it is. Good stuff. All right, we're going to keep it moving. Juice, what did you try to tell us?
Yeah, Big Seth. I tried to tell y'all over and over and over again that I am the biggest Dolphins homer out here, period. I've been the biggest homer since April of 1993, the day the Dolphins drafted me. So anybody can tell me whatever. I'm the biggest homer ever, right? So why would I get shit about celebrating our win on Sunday, Big Seth?
Oh.
You know what I mean? I've never tried to hide my love for the aqua and orange. Yes, Seth, the aqua and orange. I've never tried to hide my love for the aqua and orange. So sure, we went into that game 1-6, and we looked worse, than the week before versus the Browns than we did in the week 1 versus the Colts. But that doesn't matter to me, man. I don't give a damn. I was ready to have a fun-ass short week, but people are, talking a lot of shit to me, bro. You know what I mean? I'm hitting the local spots. I'm going to Publix. I'm wearing my Dolphins gear. Like I always did anyways, no matter what, win, lose, or draw. But I heard stupid shit out there, man. That was a garbage win. Whatever, man. It was against a bad team. Well, hell, we were a bad team going into that game, right? So what the hell are they talking about team right there, right? Oh, you know what I didn't love is like, it's going to mess up our draft position. Fuck that draft position, man. You know what I mean? I don't care about that draft position. Look at where all of our all-time greats were drafted at. They weren't. Most of them weren't in the early first round. So screw those.
Not everybody's a first-round draft pick, dude.
Yeah, I'm about to say, man, screw those draft elites that Seth loves to punish all the time. You know what I mean? All I care about is my team. Yes, my team winning every time they take the field, and they did that. That's all I care about. So I rejoice, man. And when they win tomorrow, I will rejoice again, Big Seth, because like I tried to tell y'all, I'm the biggest homer. And anybody else who is not happy, Well, they're just the biggest haters. I tried to tell you.
Oh, there it is. Man, you should have gone last, Juice. You
Yeah, I
tell
love
me you're
that,
going to
man.
bring
I
the
love
heat
that.
like that. But I was so friggin' pissed off at these people that were mad that the team they cheered for won the game.
They won.
And they're like it was just crazy to me. And then they're upset that we're enjoying that they won. Now, I did tell both of you guys that if Tua came out and balled out, that I was going to ball out on Twitter when the game was over. Bobby from Dive Bar, at one point, he texted me. He's like, Seth tried to tell y'all, or he's telling y'all, whatever it is. I just, it's so crazy to me that you would take that approach to fandom. But as I said, and some people got in their feelings about this, some people ain't happy unless they're miserable. Right. So they're the biggest haters, as you said. Sevach, do you have one?
Oh, man, hell no. Nobody wants to hear what I got to say anyway.
I told you I tried to tell you last time.
So
in that case,
I'm just going to say this. If I could quote one of the great poets of our time, Mr. Andre 3000, when he said, y'all ain't trying to hear me, y'all just want to dance.
Okay.
You sound just like him, too, when you said it.
He does. He definitely has some Andre 3000 going. Well, in that case, I'll bring it home because, fellas, I tried to tell y'all since 2023 that this team needed a young, dynamic, pass-catching tight end. And on National Tight Ends Day this past Sunday, and we'll loop in the Thursday game as well because it was all kind of the same football week. So on National Tight Ends Day, we saw every one of my guys shine and shine brightly. So Juice and Travis, you guys sat next to me during our 2023 draft show on iHeart. Before they shit canned me, you guys sat next to me and I jumped up and down on the table. I demanded that the Dolphins draft a tight end because there were a lot of talented ones. But the guy I identified, the guy that I wanted was Tucker Kraft. Am I lying?
Can we talk about how crazy that is that you identified the guy from South? Like I fucking love that, Seth. The guy from South Dakota State. You nailed it. South Dakota State.
I told you guys. I didn't try to tell you. I friggin' told you that he was my favorite of the bunch. Okay? This is not hindsight. You just admitted it. It's not 2020 hindsight. Like Samuel L. Jackson said in that movie, Rules of Engagement. If you haven't seen it, check it out. He said, well, if you got it on tape, then that's what I said, because it is what I said. And what did Tucker Kraft do on Sunday night? All he had was 7 catches for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was the best friggin' tight end in football that night, but he's also been a productive player since they drafted him. We didn't have that. How about earlier that day when there was only one man in America that could rescue the hapless New York Jets, and he was none other than a guy who interned with me at the Jason Taylor Foundation. My man, Mason Taylor, catches his first NFL touchdown pass in traffic, back of the end zone, over a man who's, I know Mason would never say it, but he was probably thinking, you're too small, and he lifts the Jets to their first win of the season. Now, Juice and Travis, did I wear your asses out talking up Mason all offseason into the draft? Because that's who I really wanted. And some of that was just heart, and obviously having somebody that I cared about and that I knew, but I wanted him to be a Dolphin. It would have been a great story, but the Dolphins needed a pass-catching tight end. I know that they had Jonnu Smith, but they knew something that we didn't. They should have known something that we didn't. But I'm not done, because earlier in the week on Thursday is none other than Rondé Gaston II, who continues to be a rising star for the LA Chargers. He has 5 grabs, 77 yards, and a touchdown. He's kicking ass so much that fucking in Instagram, they're putting Rondé Gaston highlights out there again from the NFL. They're remembering who OG was as if he was a forgotten man from the past. All of a sudden, because his son's balling, now we got OG balling as well. How pissed was I that Miami traded out of that 4th round? You guys know I was texting you guys. Why are they trading out of the 4th round? We need picks. What is a 6th round pick next year going to do for us, or whatever, trade back in? Why did they trade out of the 4th round when they could have drafted him, because he didn't get drafted until the 5th round, right? So I don't understand why those decisions were made. I do get it. As I said, Jonnu Smith was still a Dolphin, but he was never going to have a season like he had just had. Jonnu Smith had the best season of his career. I know statistically it was the best season in Miami Dolphins history, but that was it. He had reached the peak. He's 30 years old. It wasn't going to get any better. And then, oh, by the way, You get the Drew Rosenhaus. Anytime that phone rings and it lights up and it says Drew Rosenhaus, you know it's about to cost you some damn money or some draft picks or something. And that's exactly what happened. Something was rotten in Denmark. The Dolphins should have known it. They needed to get a pass-catching tight end. I talked up Julian Hill recently. Look, he's a valuable player, but he's not an offensive threat. He's an important piece of the offensive machine. He's not a threat. This team needs the type of guy that can help Tua, particularly in the middle of the field or near the goal line when things are turning to shit around him, because unfortunately they turn to shit around him from time to time. We saw how valuable a player in that position is with Darren Waller in the limited access that we've had to him. But, how long is that going to last? It lasted 3-4 games, and he's back on IR. We know it's not going to last for the next 5 years, but we could have had somebody. Over and over and over again, fellas, I tried to tell y'all we needed a young pass-catching tight end on this roster, but unfortunately, I'm still trying to tell y'all.
I think Waller kind of proved your point with OG. You pair a player like that with Julian Hill, who can be that F. Waller is really a more polished F than Jonnu Smith was, and we saw him kind of flourish in the system. Yeah, it's hard to imagine OG not having some success here.
Absolutely. So anyway, I had to get
y'all can say all the shit you want to say about that. Y'all know we should have went We Are with that shit. Don't give me that. We should have went We Are right away. You know what I mean? With my man. You know what I mean? Come on, man. Tyler Warren, what he's doing in the league. A blocker, a route runner, a badass. I love the kids, man. Cause I grew up. It's so funny because I grew up with little Mark Ingram. You know what I mean? Little Mark. He's Big Mark now. You know what I mean? So you guys, Seth, like you've grown up the youngins, man. The youngins are amazing. And all those guys, man. I've got Rondé II on my fantasy team.
Balling out.
He's getting a start this weekend. I'm looking forward to it because they're finally figuring out that he's the absolute best complementary piece, to McConkey and Allen. It's gonna be special with what he's got with those weapons.
Yeah, no doubt. And let me say this because you brought up Tyler Warren. Travis tried to tell us about Tyler Warren. I mean, that's the player he wanted. You can hear it on Drive Time.
Boy, did
I did not say that, not because I don't think he is as talented as he clearly is. I just didn't think that the Dolphins needed to spend the 13th overall pick in the draft at that position. After I just went 9 minutes on why they need a player at that position, I didn't think that was what they needed to spend at that position, particularly when there were other guys in the draft that could be productive and be important for the team. But
we went defensive tackle though. So, I mean, I'm cool with that too. But I mean, we got a bunch of them in the draft. Bunch of defensive tackles.
And to further your point too, Seth, like part of the reason you didn't want tight end at 13 was because you had a crack at Mason at 48 and possibly a crack later on at Rondé.
Great point.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was kind of what I was thinking. I knew that we were really thin at the defensive. And look, the year before I was telling you, I don't want you to spend a first-round draft pick on an interior lineman because you may not sign those guys back in 4 years. We've already seen that movie as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're at where we're at. We got what we got. It has been really nice to see the development of Julian Hill, and Waller was a pleasant surprise. I just don't know how much we're going to have him. What's up, Juice?
All right, big last question, man. After we win tomorrow night, y'all passing out candy on Friday? Because I might be coming by your house.
I got you. You should see all the lights that the wife has set up at our house.
Bet.
Yeah,
I might
you already know where I'm at.
It's hard to get in Savannah now. It's hard to get in Savannah, boy. They got. It's like going through TSA, boy. I'm telling you.
On Halloween.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They got one entrance and the other entrance. But thanks for telling everybody where I'm at.
Oh shit! That ain't coming for you, Big Seth. Nobody coming for you.
They might be now. All those people who still want yours to play might be coming for me. That's the problem.
We are doing candy. We just did pumpkin tonight. The kids are fired up about that. I'll send you guys the picture of the pumpkins and the kids.
Yes.
I was going to tell you, Seth, because you always send me all those cool stores and restaurants that have these extravagant decorations. I think I told you guys about this back at Christmas time. There's a house right by Pembroke Lakes Golf Course. It's in Pembroke Pines, about 10 minutes from my house, that goes nuts for Christmas, and they do it for Halloween. And last night we went for a walk around there, every imaginable legendary horror film character is out there, and they have all these skeletons and just a crazy display of awesome Halloween decorations. And it's right up my alley. I know it is yours too. So I wanted to make sure you knew that. I'll send you the address when we get off.
Please do.
Yeah,
just don't broadcast it here.
Well, it's like known in the area. Like people like prepare for it every year, especially the Christmas one.
And you know what? You know what's so funny, Travis? There's like
Bobby.
10,000 people in Savannah. And you know what I mean? So Seth's worried about people coming for him. There's like 10,000 people in this one community.
You're going to get me in some serious trouble when I get home. I just want you to know that. Like, I'm in some serious damn trouble. Oh, man. Hey, I appreciate everybody who's been hanging out with us. Happy birthday again to T-Dog Travis. T-Dog is just cracking me up. I'm just absolutely loving this. To Travis Wingfield, I hope we get to see you again in the live. I know I had to put in the request about 3 weeks early in the whole deal, but we made it happen.
Thank you, Travis.
Hopefully we'll get Chad Van Horn back in here soon. Hopefully Alvaro still talks to me tomorrow.
Yeah, good luck.
Have a good night, my man. And, great stuff. Juice, get us out of here, man.
Everybody, thanks for diving in.